Hello and welcome into Maroon and Bold. I am your host and sports editor, Austin Chastain, alongside sports reporter Christian Boer. Christian, how are things going for you, man? We're actually able to kind of be together in a way. We're socially distant here, but we're together back at it again. But how are things going for you, man?
Man, things are going well. Surviving. I feel like I say that every week. But that's really it. You got to survive in advance. And another week down. We're 1 week closer to the end of the semester. We're 1 week closer to what would have been spring break, but unfortunately that's no longer a thing, at least not for this year. So got to persevere through that. And yeah, man, just keep going. What about yourself?
Yeah, same thing. Just like you said, just kind of surviving and advancing, surviving and grinding. But man, yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much it right there. Yeah, I don't know. What I do know, there is a lot to talk about in CMU sports. We didn't chat last week. But yeah, there's a lot for us to talk about, especially given some news on Saturday about the CMU women's team having to postpone, well, actually cancel. They initially used the language of postponing Saturday's game against Eastern Michigan, but that game has actually been canceled due to the fact that there's just simply not enough time to reschedule that game. But CMU had to not make the trip to Ypsilanti due to a COVID-19 issue and subsequent contact tracing. It was a statement from the Mid-American Conference. Team spokesman was not able to share any further information, whether it was just a contact tracing issue or just maybe a false positive or one person having a positive test, and that's due to the HIPAA policy and the kind of the CMU university communication policy. So we don't know much past the fact that they had to postpone a game, and that's the first game that the CMU women's team has had to postpone, I think, just in general this season. But it's definitely, I know it's the first one that CMU has had to postpone or cancel due to a COVID problem within its own program. Was there, Christian, I can't remember, was there one that they had to postpone?
Yeah, the Dayton game. They had to go back and forth. That was when Dayton was having some trouble. That's the only other game that they've had postponed that they didn't make up. The other ones were just mostly reschedules, but not for COVID reasons, just because they wanted to get those games in. So, yeah, it's the first time we've seen this pop up in the women's program. It comes at an especially concerning time, considering that, you're looking at, if it is an issue within the team, you got about a 10-day quarantine, and that takes you right up to the day before the Mid-American Conference tournament starts. So then you're looking at potentially going to Cleveland without practicing and trying to make a run in the tournament. Now, the other issue is your win percentage, because that's how the conference is going to be decided. And every game you miss, and half the conference obviously wins a game, they pick up wins. Then you start looking at maybe playing a better team early on, and for a team that it maybe isn't going to practice until the tournament starts, it's going to be kind of tough. So Bowling Green picked up the 1 seed last night. Recording this on Sunday, they won it yesterday. So the MAC tournament, or not the MAC tournament, the MAC regular season championship streak is over for the women's team, but still plenty of potential to make some noise in Cleveland. It's just a matter of getting there now, I guess, which, they've always been a lock to make the tournament. They picked it up and they locked it up a couple of weeks ago, but now COVID issues, hopefully they're able to get it figured out. And like you said, also, we don't know exactly what it is, whether it's contact tracing, whether somebody is a close contact, or whether they've had some positives pop up. I don't really want to speculate, but that's really just kind of a sign of the times where we're all kind of in the dark. And even speaking with a source yesterday, it didn't sound like he had too much of an idea either, just simply because everything's so up in the air. So I'm sure we'll get some more news in the coming days. But yeah, kind of a concerning time right now for the women's team.
Yeah, it definitely is a concerning time, to say the least. And like you said, I mean, there's that thought that if it's just a 10-day quarantine, which I think is the conference policy, I can't remember if it is, like you said, it takes them right up to March 9th, and the tournament starts on March 10th. So there's not really an opportunity, like you said, to practice. And again, like Christian said, we're not going to sit here and speculate. We're not going to do that. That's not what we're about. Yet there is a thought. I mean, if it's something a little bit more serious, there is a possibility, a legitimate possibility, that's why I'm going to bring it up, that CMU might not be able to make it down to Cleveland and might have to, exercise the contingency plan that the MAC has put out, where if a team is not able to go to play in the tournament, then that team obviously is not going to play. But if they opt out of the tournament or decide that they're not able to go to the tournament before the bracket comes out on March 6th, the last day of the regular season, so next Saturday, I guess this coming Saturday, because this is coming out on Tuesday, then, be it the number 9 team in the standings, or be it the number 9 team in the standings just can't make it, or no, the number 9 team would move up in a way, and then the whole bracket would have to be reseeded based on the winning percentage, like Christian said. So, it like Christian said, very concerning situation. Obviously, if somebody has tested positive, on in the women's team, we obviously hope that particular person is okay. We obviously don't know, and we're not going to speculate. But if that person has registered a positive test, we hope that person is okay and they can get healthy soon. And if it's a contact tracing issue, then hopefully it's resolved rather quickly, so then CMU can make it to Cleveland. So, and kind of thinking about it from a basketball perspective, like you said, they wouldn't be able to practice if they have to go into a 10-day quarantine. And let's face it, I mean, so far this season, CMU has been a little bit shaky. I don't want to say it, but they've been a little bit questionable with some of these games that have kind of gone down to the wire in a way, and it's not necessarily something that you think about, like you said, Bowling Green won the regular season championship, snapping the streak, but as a team, how do you think a quarantine or a pause, again, not speculating, but I guess we are speculating in a way, aren't we? But we're going to totally speculate. Should CMU have to enter a quarantine or a pause, how do you think that would? How do you think it would affect the team? But might it be a good thing that they get a little bit of a break? Like, what are you kind of thinking with this?
See, that's kind of the dilemma. where, yeah, obviously when you play in the grind like they do, a break can always be good. But at the same time, this team is made up of a bunch of gym rats. You know, Michaela Kelly's always in the gym. Molly Davis is always in the gym. It's going to be tough if they can't go to the gym and practice for 10 days. You know, they obviously anybody who plays at this level loves basketball, but how hard they work is unquestionable. So if they have to take such a layoff, it's going to hurt because you can't get shots up. And the thing about going to Cleveland is everybody wants to be playing their best basketball, and it's going to be awfully difficult to play your best basketball if you can't practice for however long. So that'll be tough. As far as, like you said, they have struggled, especially down the stretch in some of these close games. Giving up big shots, not getting stops on defense, and then not hitting the big shots on the other end, like we'd kind of grown accustomed to them doing last season. So, yeah, it's definitely been a different year for them. But, things can change on the flip of a coin. So if they can get to Cleveland, they can make some noise for sure. But not having any practice time, in that scenario, not having any practice time would be detrimental in my opinion, because everybody else is hitting their stride, and I think it's Ohio's missed a couple of games now too. So just not a super great time for anybody, and it just reminds us all that we got to be on our guard 24/7.
Yeah, that's a true statement. Just thinking about it, it's all about perspective. A lot of people could be really pissed off, like, oh man, CMU's not going to go to Cleveland. Oh my God, they played such a great season. Well, they did, but we got to remember we're in a pandemic season right now. Something we haven't seen in 100 years. So, like you said, I mean, it's a troubling time, but, it's all about perspective. You got to think about the fact that they're even playing right now is just incredible. A lot of, anytime we talk about COVID with coaches and players, they're always very thankful to the university for providing the access to testing so then they can get out and play. And then, stuff like this happens where, maybe not even maybe a positive test within the team, but the contact tracing piece of it. Regardless, you just almost have to kind of sit back and be thankful that there is even a season to enjoy in the first place. So I know it's tough, and again, there's nothing saying that the women's team isn't going to go play in Cleveland. We just simply don't know. But if they're not able to, you just kind of have to sit back and think, let's just be thankful that there was even a season. Coming from a fan's perspective, of course, but it's just one of those things. One troubling sign of the times, like Christian has said. One other women's basketball note I think we wanted to hit on real quick. Michaela Kelly hitting the 2,000 point mark is pretty impressive. It's in fact it's elite. Like impressive. I think she's the third Chippewa to hit the mark. Presley Hudson, of course, the all-time leading Central Michigan scorer, both men and women, and then Crystal Bradford hitting the 2,000 point mark. And the crazy part about what Kelly has done is she hit the 1,000 point mark last December. So, I mean, she scored almost 1,000 points she scored over 1,000 points in just over a year. Now, I know, early December to we'll call it mid-February. But that's still a lot of points, and she's taken over that role as the team's leading scorer in almost every game. And I know she was nationally one of the national leading scorers last year, and really has put up the same numbers this year. But obviously, I mean, Christian, you've been following along with the women's team almost exclusively this season. Just what about Kelly and her just impressive scoring prowess?
She's just so quick, man. Like, anytime the ball is on the floor, she's getting on it, she's taking 2 dribbles, and then she's already to the rim and she's scoring. She can score 10 points in 2 minutes. It's just kind of outstanding the way that she can take over a game, and she's done that a couple of times this year, but last year especially, when she was going out and getting hers every single night. Got 2,000, and then I don't know what officially her total stands at now, but I know she passed Crystal Bradford for second place all time. Crystal Bradford had 2,006 points. Kelly passed that in the third quarter after she got the 2,000 in the second quarter of that game at home against Toledo. So yeah, she's outstanding. She gets downhill really easily within the offense, and then she's still a really good perimeter shooter. It'll be interesting to see whether or not she elects to take the extra year. I don't know. I'm leaning towards no, because Heather's made mention of her hopes to play in the pros. So I'm thinking maybe that's what's next for her. But if she does take another year, it'll be interesting to see where the max standings have Central Michigan stacking up, because I would assume they'll be right near the top again.
Well, that's exactly the point. I mean, I think, I think she would be successful in some kind of pro career, whether it's the WNBA, going overseas, similar to Presley Hudson and Raina Frost, or just, and Crystal Bradford too. But whichever route she decides to go, I think she would find success in the pros. But yeah, man, if, like you said, if she decides to come back, like that team, like we were talking, like this year's team is excellent. I think they're excellent. At least, the backcourt with Kelly and Molly Davis is just fantastic. The starting front court, I think, is excellent as well. And obviously you have to make mention of Maddie Waters, also a guard, but the way that lineup works out is you can have it go either way. You can either have 3 forwards or 3 guards. And like Heather uses guards and forwards pretty interchangeably. I mean, Anika Weeks plays both a 3-4. She could probably play close to a 5, but she plays a 3 or a 4 without hesitation. But yeah, I mean, really, like you said, depending on who wants to come back, who wants to play one more season, plus whichever freshmen they bring in, they're going to be electric next season.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. It's tough to project where they'll finish, simply because of how this year turned out. And, obviously on paper they should be number 1. On paper this year they should have been number 1. But sometimes the ball don't bounce your way, and I think that's a prime case of what's happened this year. So, the Bowling Green's been a surprise. There's some other teams. Northern Illinois is a surprise, and it'll be really interesting to see, because like I said, on paper they should be number 1. They were number 1 this year, but what you are on paper and what you are in games is 2 different things. So obviously all the talent in the world if all three of them decide to come back, but late game finishing I think is huge for them, and they struggled with that this year. But hey, this is a learning experience because this is a group that's won every year, so they've kind of taken it on the chin this year, and maybe they learn from it. They decide that maybe they're hungry and decide to come back, and then I think it'd be really fascinating to see what happens with them next year.
Yeah, no doubt. And one of those things, being hungry like that, we talked about it with kind of our Valentine's Day episode, our Tinder episode, right? Or Bumble, Tinder or Bumble, whichever one you prefer. But still, them not being the one seed might actually play into their favor. I mean, I know you have to beat the best teams in the MAC to win the MAC anyway, but kind of that pressure of being on that pedestal of winning 4 straight regular season championships, it might actually do them some good to be able to kind of step away from that and be like, all right, we're the hunter now, not the hunted. So let's go get after it and get down there and take care of business if they're able to. So, but yeah, roster would be electric. Like I said, next year if they're able to make it, if they're able to have a lot of or have people come back, So, let's see. Some other news around CMU. Wanted to get to that real quick. Volleyball team earned a weekend sweep of Akron with a 5-set victory on Thursday and a 3-1 victory on Friday. We got a cool little side story coming in about the team's mindset about defending McGurk, kind of their mantra, their motto, their mindset. As the season kind of hits the second half point, they played 12 games of the 22-game season, which, the schedule lines up like the halfway. You can't really do like a halfway grades or whatever, because the halfway point there's a game the next night. So yeah, whatever, works out. But Chippewas are 7-5. Have the MAC leading Bowling Green, which is 10-0, coming in next weekend. So make sure to follow along with staff reporter Catherine Schultz for that one. But yeah, a lot of good stuff with the volleyball team. 4 in a row, excuse me. So good vibes heading for volleyball team. I can't believe I just said that. The gymnastics teams, again, we're recording this on Sunday. They have a meet against Bowling Green on Sunday. So we obviously don't have a result for that one yet, but make sure you follow along with Noah Woolbrick for that one. Well, you can look back at it on CM Live Sports on Twitter. See, there's my plug. Let's see. We'll talk about wrestling in depth here a little bit, and I think... Oh, the softball team has opened its season. Let's see. I'm trying to remember. I don't have anything pulled up in front of me, actually. Like I said, we're in a socially distanced room, and I can't remember. Did the softball team win?
Yes, they did yesterday.
They took a win on Saturday. They took 2 wins?
No, they played once. They're 1-1 right now. They won. Well, no, they won Friday. They lost yesterday.
Okay, so the softball team won its opener on Friday, lost on Saturday, and has another game on Sunday. I do apologize for that. I admit I don't have anything pulled up. We're just kind of hanging out at this point. But cool. So excellent news on the softball team picking up a win in the opener. Baseball team had its had its weekend series canceled against Bellarmine. So that 3-game or 4 that set has been canceled and will not be made up, according to the language used by the team. Both teams, I think, come home and will start playing conference games and home games, I believe, in April. So have to wait a little bit to go see them play at Margot Yonker Stadium and Tennyson Stadium. But hopefully we can get some fans in both of those venues so you guys can go ahead and enjoy those two teams. That said, it would be, I think, incorrect for us to not talk about men's basketball. It's March, but I don't see any madness from the men's team taking a 6-point loss against Ball State on Saturday, mathematically eliminating the Chippewas from the tournament. But like we said, with that contingency plan that the MAC has put in place, there's still a technicality, a possibility that the men's team could go to Cleveland, but let's just face it, a lot of crazy shit would have to happen with that.
Yeah, and one of the crazy things that would have to happen is they'd have to beat a conference team not named Eastern Michigan, which hasn't happened yet this year. So kind of a dig there, but it's the truth. No, it's just been kind of a tough year. With what Keno Davis likes to do, he likes to bring in guys from the JUCO market. It's tough because they didn't get the summer to learn to play together and build that continuity. So it's difficult to project what they would have done with an entire summer together. Plus, they've been drilled by the injury bug lately, so it's tough for them to play when they don't have the ball bouncing their way hardly ever. There's some good pieces on this team. Caleb Huffman, Mikkel Murray, Ralph Basaith, those three guys. The one thing I will say about what they've done this year is Keno Davis has brought in guys who have contributed. I mean, you look at some of his past recruiting classes and you get a Sean Roundtree and a Larry Austin, but you also get a guy like Kevin Hamlet who really never found his footing here. Dallas Morgan, Rob Montgomery. But then again, there's guys, there's always one or two in every bunch that just never really find their footing. But what Central Michigan's been able to do is, Malik Muhammad's been all right at times. His problem is he fouls a lot, and if he can kind of get that figured out, then he's going to be all right. Huffman can score with anybody. Murray can get to the basket. Ralph Basaith is developing into a really good swingman, a guy who can play inside out. And then there's some other pieces in there as well. So, I mean, it's just tough because they hang in games for 36, 37 minutes and then it falls apart. So, their goal should be to finish the year with another win, get another win under their belt. It's going to be tough if Devontae Lane and Trevon Broadway don't come back, but if I had to guess, I think a lot of these guys are going to be back next year. So you're going to be looking at pretty much the same exact team. And hopefully they can be healthy, because I think when everybody's healthy, this is a team that's capable of winning some basketball games.
Yeah, I mean, and you've seen it this year. I mean, they had a lot of. I mean, they had a couple of blowouts, but I think most of those games have been pretty close. Most of those games, CMU's been in. And like you said, and it's not just you can look at the JUCO guys. Fellow staff reporter Mitch Vosberg did. He kind of dug in all the numbers, and quite frankly, it's just a really impressive spreadsheet that he put. A couple of spreadsheets that he put together. So be on the lookout for an analysis on that coming up. But you can look at all the JUCO guys, but one thing Keno did, I think, really well with this crop of guys that have come in is that they're big. They're not just, he didn't bring in a bunch of guards and expecting a 6'6" guy to go in there and rebound against some of these 6'8", 6'10" forwards, right? So yeah, I definitely think Keno's done that really well to bring in some size to this program 'cause they need it. So yeah, I like the way that this team looks. Maybe not like Christian said. I think you can attribute a lot of it to the injury bug. I mean, yeah, the loss to Division II Flagler. I think they just hadn't really gelled yet. I'm not going to make excuses. You shouldn't be losing to a Division II team, but Flagler has gone on to win some pretty important games. So yeah, I mean, you can say what you want about the team, but at the end of the day, I mean, there's definitely the prospect of bringing in junior college guys. It is a bit of a struggle. I think, but at the same time, as a team, you kind of do have to figure it out, and you have to figure out how to not let a 6-0 run swell to 12. Somehow find a way to cut runs down against some of these big teams in the MAC. But you kind of have to look at it as it is what it is at this point. 2 games left. Both of them are at home, I do believe. Toledo on Tuesday and Northern Illinois on Friday. Both those tips are scheduled for 5 o'clock, so you can follow along with, like I said, with Mitch Vosberg on that one. 5 o'clock, I might actually be able to get to that one, so I might be able to get to both the season finales. So you can follow along with Mitch and myself on Friday, and then Christian and myself on Saturday for the women's game. Let's see. And like I said earlier, really not much in the way of segues today. I'm just not feeling segues. But the CMU wrestling team had a huge weekend at the MAC Championships in Lawrenceville, New Jersey. Rider University hosting the championships this year. Drew Hildebrandt, Dresden Simon, and Matt Stencil all have gone back-to-back to win MAC championships individually in their respective weight classes. So, big time congrats to those guys. Something that I think about it a lot when it comes to the wrestling team. I know a lot of the wrestling fans think about it. But those 3 guys, I think, are the definition of Borelli built. Some people I've heard, and I honestly completely disagree with it, that Borelli has lost his fire. No, I don't. I don't agree with that. I think Borelli's done a lot of great things with the team, and looking back at the last 3 years, so we'll go back to the 2019 season. They had one senior with Jordan Atienza, who was excellent. He maybe didn't win all of his matches, but he in some of those middle weights, it's hard to win those middle weights, and they're ultra competitive. Again, he was the one senior on the team. And then you go back to 2020, Logan Parks was the only senior on the team. Both of those guys have shown that they're excellent leaders and that they did a lot of things right and they learned a lot in their. I always want to say 4 years, but it's realistically like 6. But they've learned a lot in their time at CMU and under Borelli, and then you look at Hildebrandt, Simon, and Stencil. You really focus on Hildebrandt and Stencil because those are the bookend boys, right? You start a duel with Hildebrandt. He usually gets you bonus points, usually 4 or 5 points to the duel, and then Stencil comes in and wraps things up, usually with a pin or, again, with some bonus points. But you can almost always count on a win from those two. When you look at the duel at Missouri, kind of in that midpoint of the season, everyone else fell to Missouri. Everyone lost to their Missouri opponents. Hildebrandt got a win, and Stencil got a win, both against ranked guys. So that's huge. But yeah, and thinking about those three, I mean, lots of impressive things that those guys have done. And again, with that eligibility rule, they might not be done. I talked to Stencil in the beginning of the season, and it slipped my mind the extra year of eligibility, but he and I were talking, and I said, look, man, one last go around, what are some of the goals? And he's like, well, it might not be. I might come back. Who knows? I'm like, oh, right. I forgot that that's a possibility, but just a lot of, like I said, just a lot of cool stuff that those guys have been able to do. If I'm not mistaken, the team championships are on Sunday. Let me just double check that real quick. But I think the team championships are right here on Sunday. And with Stencil's win, that's his 4th. That is very well. It's elite. He becomes the 9th wrestler in CMU history to win 4 MAC championships in a particular weight class. And if he comes back, which who knows, he might. And I get it. It would be, I'm gonna say it. Don't hurt me. Unprecedented. But he comes back. He wins. He would almost guaranteed win a 5th. Okay, an injury could happen. Something could happen. Obviously, we're not wishing that. But most likely, he would win a 5th MAC championship. So that is what you want to see as a coach if you're Borelli. I'm still oh. I think I've lost my mind. Yeah, pretty sure I've lost my mind here. 'Cause it looks like that oh, here's the team standings. I found them. Yep, makes sense. Missouri wins the... So I was completely wrong. I'm glad I double-checked before I started spewing off some nonsense. Missouri won the team championship. Central, and it wasn't particularly close, but Central still finished 2nd. Missouri... Okay, so let's just look at this. Missouri finished with a score of 188.5. Central finished with a score of 129.0. That's almost ridiculous. I mean, and ridiculous, ridiculous, whatever. Missouri has won the MAC, it seems like, for the last 100 years, which I know is incorrect, but so it was kind of explained to me, and I mean, a lot of fans are going to understand this, but when Missouri joined the SEC doesn't have wrestling. So you can't have two, I guess, programs, two teams, if you will, in different Power 5 conferences. So Missouri couldn't stay in the Big 12 for wrestling when Missouri moved to the SEC. So Missouri had to move to the Mid-American Conference and has just wreaked havoc since joining the MAC. So, it good for them, but Central has still shown some incredible dominance. I guess Central was similar to Missouri before Missouri showed up. So, and now I guess Missouri is Central. You have to follow along. You kind of have to follow my words. You know what I'm driving at here, but a lot of good stuff from that wrestling team. Christian, I know you're not necessarily all that familiar with the wrestling team, but I know you follow along with the team pretty decently. What do you make of all of the nonsense that I just spewed off about for the last 10 minutes?
Nah, I think it's really cool, to see how Tom Borelli has built this, quite literally, program. He's built it, and once again, you've got the two guys, in Hildebrandt and Stencil, who claim MAC titles. Simon winning a MAC title. So, again, it doesn't look like they're quite on the level of Missouri. I don't think really anybody within the MAC is, and I don't think a whole lot of teams are nationally, but to see how competitive this squad is just such a great thing for the university, and it's fun to watch. It's fun to follow along with, and Tom Borelli's a really good guy too, just from observing him the couple of times that I have. So it's neat to see all of this going on, and at the end of the day, it's just another example of the successful athletic department that the Chippewas are kind of starting to build.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot, like you said, a lot of great stuff going on around the athletic department, be it, the football team getting ready to start spring football, the women's basketball team, winning and showing some success, the wrestling team winning, several guys winning MAC championships and stuff like that. It's good to see, and I think fans are pretty happy about it. Obviously, the fact that they can't go see their teams, I'm sure, really stinks. In fact, no, I know it really stinks. And yeah, I'm just excited to get some fans. I think I talked about it before, but I'll just mention this again. The thing I am most excited about for getting people back in McGurk, I love the fans. I love seeing people, especially I run into somebody I know, while I'm over there covering a game or something. It's a really neat experience. But I miss the 6-man band. I'm not gonna lie to you. When I really started at CM Life, I was covering both basketball teams, the wrestling team, the gymnastics team, and especially the women's games. Those 1:00 tips on a Saturday. Places, we'll call it 2/3 full. 6-man band is just rocking and rolling. Those are the things that I miss. I don't, being on the floor. I mean, I'm not going to take it for granted, but I don't necessarily, that's not anything I miss. But seeing the people and hearing the 6-man band, man, I think is what I miss the most in terms of people. Other than that, Christian, do you got anything before we wrap this thing up?
No, sir. I think I'm all set.
Sweet. All right. Well, I know I already plugged it, but you're gonna have to listen to me one more time. Make sure you follow along with us at CM Life Sports over on Twitter. You can follow Christian at @Seaboer_. Follow me, Chastain AJ, for all the updates concerning the women's team and what's going on in Cleveland. Hopefully, we'll be able to make the trip. CMU's going to be there. We will be there as well. But, yeah. So there's my first plug. You can follow all of our main social media channels, CM Life on Twitter, Central Michigan Life, Facebook, and Instagram. Follow our YouTube channel, CM Life Video. You find us on Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcasts. We have several podcasts, including one Unsportsmanlike Conduct, the revamp edition with Mitch and Christian, the Pro Sports Show, where they talk, you listen. I love that tagline. Thank you, Andy McDonald, for that. But, yeah, I think that just about does it. Again, follow all of our social media channels, find our podcast, cm-life.com. You know where to find us. We appreciate the support and appreciate you tuning in. So, until we meet again, for our multimedia editor, Ben Ackley, for Christian, I'm Austin. We'll talk to you again soon.